The meeting that changed everything. Natalie Brooks adjusted her portfolio for the third time, her fingers trembling slightly as she waited in the glass-walled conference room. The Chicago skyline stretched behind her, a maze of steel and ambition. She had worked 3 years to get this meeting, a chance to pitch her sustainable design concepts to Ashford Technologies. The company was known for innovation, but its founder remained a mystery wrapped in whispers. The door opened without warning. Julian Ashford walked in, and the room seemed to shrink around his presence. He was tall, his dark suit perfectly tailored, his expression unreadable. But it was his eyes that caught her attention. They were sharp, calculating, yet somehow hollow, like a man who had seen too much and felt too little. "Miss Brooks," he said, his voice smooth but distant. He did not offer his hand. "You have 15 minutes." Natalie straightened her spine. She had heard the stories. Julian Ashford, the 32-year-old genius who had built a tech empire from his college dorm room, was rumored to be emotionally unavailable. Some said a tragic accident had left him incapable of intimacy. Others claimed his ex-girlfriend had spread vicious lies after their breakup. Either way, the gossip followed him like a shadow. The unexpected proposal, her presentation went flawlessly. She spoke about eco-friendly office spaces, about designs that inspired creativity while respecting the planet. Julian listened without interruption, his fingers steepled beneath his chin. When she finished, silence filled the room. "Impressive," he said finally. "But I did not call you here for your design skills alone." Natalie blinked, confused. "I'm sorry?" He stood, walking to the window with his hands in his pockets. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across his face. "I have a problem, Miss Brooks. The rumors about me are affecting my business. International partners question my stability. Investors worry about my personal life interfering with their returns. I still do not understand what this has to do with me." He turned, and for the first time, she saw something crack in his facade. Desperation, perhaps, or resignation. "I need a wife. Someone credible, independent, who will not crumble under scrutiny. 6 months. A business arrangement with substantial compensation."
Ow.
The words hung in the air between them. Natalie felt her heart hammer against her ribs. "You want me to marry you? A stranger?" "I want you to play a role," he corrected. "Appearances at events, a ring on your finger, a shared address. In return, you will receive funding for your firm, connections that will launch your career beyond your wildest dreams." She laughed, a sharp sound that echoed in the vast room. "This is insane. Perhaps—" His gaze did not waver. "But you are drowning in debt from your father's medical bills. Your firm is barely surviving." I checked. Anger flashed through her, hot and sudden. "You investigated me." "I investigate everyone." His tone remained calm, matter-of-fact. "I am offering you a solution. Take the weekend to consider it." The decision, and Natalie spent 3 sleepless nights wrestling with the decision. She thought about her father, still recovering from his stroke, the bills that kept piling up despite her best efforts. She thought about her dream of owning a firm that actually made a difference. Not just serving wealthy clients, but creating spaces that healed communities. On Monday morning, she walked into Julian's office and placed a signed contract on his desk. 6 months, she said firmly. "Then we walk away, and you never contact me again." Something flickered in his eyes. Relief, maybe, or respect. Agreed. The wedding night, the ceremony took place in a private garden, small and elegant. Natalie wore a simple cream dress, her dark hair falling in loose waves. Julian stood at the altar in a charcoal suit, his expression composed as always. The officiants spoke words about love and commitment that felt hollow given their arrangement. When it came time for the vows, Julian took her hands. His touch was warm, surprisingly gentle. "I promise to respect our agreement," he said quietly, his eyes meeting hers with unexpected intensity. She swallowed hard. "I promise the same." The kiss was brief, perfunctory, meant only for the handful of witnesses. Yet Natalie felt a jolt run through her at the contact. Something electric that made her pull back faster than necessary. They drove to his penthouse in silence. The apartment was stunning, all clean lines and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. It felt more like a museum than a home, beautiful but cold. "I will show you to your room," Julian said, leading her down a hallway. Natalie followed, gripping her overnight bag. He opened a door to a spacious bedroom, tastefully decorated in neutral tones. "You have your own bathroom. The kitchen is stocked. Take whatever you need. Thank you." She set down her bag, suddenly exhausted. He lingered in the doorway, his hand on the frame. For a moment, neither spoke. The city lights twinkled beyond the windows, casting soft shadows across his face. "Why did you really agree to this?" His question caught her off guard, his voice lower, almost vulnerable. She met his gaze. "You already know. The money, the connections." "No." He shook his head slightly. "There is something else. I see it in your eyes. You are running from something too." Her throat tightened. She thought about her father's disappointment when she had abandoned her corporate job to start her own firm. The judgment from her family, the fear that she had made a terrible mistake. "Maybe I just want to prove I can succeed on my own terms," she said softly. Julian nodded slowly, as if he understood more than she had said. "Get some rest. We have a charity gala tomorrow evening. The vulnerability at 3 a.m. Natalie woke to the sound of breaking glass. Her heart racing, she grabbed a robe and crept into the hallway. Light spilled from Julian's office. She found him standing amid shattered crystal, a tumbler lying in pieces at his feet. His shirt was unbuttoned, his hair disheveled, and his hands were shaking. "Julian." She approached carefully. He looked up, and she saw raw pain in his eyes. The mask had fallen completely. "I'm sorry. I did not mean to wake you. What happened?" He laughed bitterly, running a hand through his hair. "The anniversary. It's the anniversary of the accident." Natalie's breath caught. "What accident?" He sank into his chair, looking suddenly much older. 5 years ago, I was engaged. Rachel, we were driving home from celebrating the launch of my first major product. A drunk driver hit us head-on. She moved closer, her heart aching. "Julian, ... She died instantly. I walked away with barely a scratch." His voice cracked. "The rumors started after?" Rachel's mother, grieving and angry, told people I was emotionally damaged, that the trauma had broken something in me. She said I could never love anyone again. That's horrible. The worst part. He looked up at her, his eyes glistening. For a long time, I believed her. I shut everyone out. Built these walls so high that no one could reach me. It was easier than risking that kind of pain again. Natalie knelt beside his chair, her hand reaching for his without thinking. "You are not broken, Julian. You are grieving. There is a difference." His fingers curled around hers, gripping tight like she was his anchor in a storm. "Why are you being kind to me? This is just a business arrangement, because right now, you are not my business partner. You are just a person in pain." They sat like that for a long time, hands clasped in the dim light. Two strangers bound by a contract but connected by something neither had expected: understanding, recognition, the tentative beginning of trust. Finally, Julian stood, pulling her gently to her feet. "Thank you," he whispered. "For not running. Where would I go?" She smiled slightly. "We are married, remember?" His lips twitched in the ghost of a smile. "Yes, I suppose we are." As Natalie returned to her room, her hands still warm from his touch, she realized the next 6 months would be far more complicated than she had imagined. Because the man the world saw as cold and unfeeling had just shown her his heart, and it was anything but empty. Living in his world the morning after their late-night conversation, Natalie woke to find a note slipped under her door. "Coffee is ready. Take your time. We leave for the office at 9. Handwriting was precise, controlled, so very Julian. Yet she noticed the small addition at the bottom. "Thank you for last night." She smiled despite herself. Folding the note and tucking it into her journal, life in Julian's penthouse fell into an unexpected rhythm. Mornings were quiet, both of them moving around the kitchen in careful synchronization. He took his coffee black, reading financial reports on his tablet. She preferred hers with cream, sketching design ideas in her notebook. They spoke little, but the silence was comfortable, lacking the tension of those first days. At Ashford Technologies, Natalie set up a small workspace in an unused conference room. Julian had given her access to pitch her sustainable designs to his corporate clients. The opportunities were staggering. Within 2 weeks, she had secured 3 major contracts, each one representing months of income for her struggling firm. But it was the small moments that unsettled her most. The way Julian would appear at her workspace with lunch, claiming he had ordered too much. How his hand would find the small of her back when they navigated crowded events, protective and possessive. The rare smiles he gave her when no cameras were watching, genuine and unguarded. The charity gala, their first major public appearance, came 3 weeks into the marriage. The Midwest Children's Foundation Gala drew Chicago's elite, a glittering affair of diamonds and designer gowns. Natalie wore a deep emerald dress that Julian had sent to her room with another note. "This color suits you," he was waiting when she emerged, devastating in a black tuxedo. His eyes widened slightly when he saw her, a reaction so quick she almost missed it. "You look beautiful," he said simply. "Thank you." She accepted his offered arm, feeling the solid warmth of him through the fabric. "Ready to convince everyone we are madly in love?" Something flickered across his face. "Yes, let's convince them." The gala was a whirlwind. Julian introduced her to business magnates and philanthropists, his hand never leaving hers. She played her role perfectly, laughing at the right moments, leaning into him during photos. But she noticed things others might miss. The tension in his shoulders when an older couple approached. The way his grip tightened on her waist when a blonde woman in red stared at them from across the room. "Who is she?" Natalie whispered during a quiet moment. Julian's jaw clenched. "Amanda Richardson. She was Rachel's best friend. She blames me for the accident." Before Natalie could respond, Amanda was suddenly in front of them, champagne glass in hand and malice in her eyes. Julian Ashford, married again. How absolutely shocking. Her words dripped with sarcasm. "Tell me, dear, does he wake up screaming? Does he still blame himself every single day?" "Amanda, stop." Julian's voice was low, dangerous. But Amanda ignored him, focusing on Natalie. "He will never love you. He is incapable of it." Rachel was his entire world, and when she died, that part of him died too. Natalie felt Julian's entire body go rigid beside her. The room seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the explosion. But instead of anger, she saw only pain in his eyes. The same raw vulnerability from that night in his office. She stepped forward, placing herself between Julian and Amanda. "You do not know him," Natalie said firmly, her voice carrying just enough to silence nearby conversations. "You knew the man he was 5 years ago. People change. People heal. Maybe if you stopped living in the past, you would see that." Amanda's face flushed red. "How dare you? How dare I defend my husband?" Natalie's eyes flashed. "He made a mistake trusting you with his pain. That ends now." She took Julian's hand and pulled him toward the exit, her heart pounding. Behind them, whispers erupted, but she did not care. They made it to the lobby before Julian stopped, turning her to face him. "Why did you do that?" His voice was rough with emotion. "Because she was wrong. Because someone needed to stand up for you." He stared at her for a long moment, his eyes searching hers. Then, without warning, he pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. They stood like that in the empty lobby, breathing together. The pretense of their arrangement crumbling with every passing second. "Natalie," he whispered. Her name, a question, and a confession, all at once. The growing connection after the gala, something shifted. Julian started coming home earlier, joining her for dinner instead of working late. They talked about everything, her childhood dreams, his college struggles, their fears and hopes. He showed her the rooftop garden he had been cultivating, a secret oasis high above the city. "I started this after Rachel died," he admitted one evening as they sat among the flowering plants, the sunset painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. "I needed something living, something that grew despite the darkness." Natalie touched a delicate orchid bloom. "It is beautiful. So are you." She looked up sharply, catching the intensity in his gaze. This was not part of their act. There were no cameras here, no witnesses, just truth hanging in the air between them. "Julian, we should not," she began, but he shook his head. "No. I know this complicates everything, but I cannot pretend anymore, Natalie. These past weeks with you have been the first time I have felt alive in 5 years." Her breath caught. She felt it too, this dangerous pull toward him. The way her heart raced when he smiled. The warmth that flooded her chest when he looked at her like she was the only person in the world. "This was supposed to be simple," she whispered. "Nothing about you is simple." He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering on her cheek. "You walked into my life and turned everything upside down." The betrayal, the scandal broke on a Tuesday morning. Natalie woke to her phone exploding with notifications. Ashford Technologies' latest acquisition details. Confidential information she had accidentally seen on Julian's desk weeks ago were splashed across every major business outlet. Her stomach dropped. The article included quotes from an anonymous source close to the family, suggesting the leak came from Julian's new wife, a woman who had married into wealth and was now selling secrets. She found Julian in his office, his face carved from stone as he stared at his computer screen. His assistant and 2 lawyers filled the room, their voices urgent and overlapping. "Julian," Natalie said from the doorway. He looked up, and the coldness in his eyes froze her blood. "Not now." "But I did not. I said not now." His voice was flat, emotionless, the same tone he had used during their first meeting. The walls had slammed back up, locking her out. The lawyers ushered her away. She spent the day in her room, her phone turned off, her heart breaking. By evening, news vans had gathered outside the building. The story had grown, speculation running wild about the gold digger wife who had betrayed Chicago's most eligible bachelor around midnight. Julian knocked on her door. She opened it to find him exhausted, his tie loose, his eyes red-rimmed. "We need to talk." She let him in, wrapping her arms around herself. "I did not leak anything, Julian." "I swear I know." His voice was barely audible. "We found the real source. A junior analyst I fired last month. He stole my passwords, accessed my files. The timing made you the perfect scapegoat." Relief flooded through her, followed quickly by anger. "You thought it was me? Even for a moment, you believed I could do that." He flinched. "I have been betrayed before. The instinct to protect myself is stronger than your trust in me." "I understand." She moved to the window, unable to look at him. "Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe we should end this now." "No." The word came out fierce, desperate. He crossed to her, spinning her around to face him. "No, I was wrong. I was terrified and I reacted badly. But Natalie, these months with you have meant everything. You defended me at that gala. You saw past the rumors to who I really am. I cannot lose that. I cannot lose you." Tears burned her eyes. "This is not real, Julian. We are playing pretend, remember? It stopped being pretend for me weeks ago." His hands cupped her face, his touch gentle despite the intensity in his voice. "I know we agreed this would end. I know I have no right to ask for more, but I am asking anyway. Stay. Not because of the contract. Stay because you want to." "Yes." She looked up at him, at the man who had been called cold and broken, and saw only warmth and desperate honesty. "I want to," she whispered. "God help me, I want to." He kissed her then, and it was nothing like their wedding kiss. This was fire and need and months of suppressed longing pouring out all at once. Her hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer. His arms wrapped around her waist, lifting her against him as if he was afraid she might disappear. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Julian rested his forehead against hers. "I am falling in love with you," he said, the words raw and unguarded. "I did not think I could feel this again, but you proved me wrong about everything." Natalie's heart swelled, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I love you too. I have for weeks, but I was too afraid to admit it." Facing the truth together the next morning, they held a press conference. Julian stood at the podium, Natalie beside him, their hands clasped tight. He told the truth about the leak, about the real culprit now facing criminal charges. But more than that, he told the truth about himself. "For 5 years, I let rumors define me," he said, his voice clear and strong. "I let grief and fear control my life. But my wife showed me something important. She showed me that being vulnerable is not weakness, that opening your heart again after loss takes more courage than any business deal." He turned to Natalie, and the love in his eyes was unmistakable. "Our marriage started as an arrangement, and I am not going to lie about that. But it became real. She became real. And I will spend the rest of my life grateful that she took a chance on a man everyone said was incapable of love." The reporters erupted with questions, but Natalie heard none of it. She saw only Julian, her husband, the man she loved, finally free from the chains of his past. As they left the conference, his arm around her waist, she leaned into him. "No more contracts?" "No more contracts," he agreed. "Just us. Just this. I think I can work with that." He smiled. That rare, genuine smile that transformed his entire face. "Good, because I am not letting you go." The investigation, the weeks following the press conference, brought unexpected peace. Julian had been right about one thing. The truth, however messy, was liberating. Business partners who had whispered behind his back now respected his honesty. The stock price, which had dipped during the scandal, rebounded stronger than ever. But Natalie noticed Julian grew quieter as the 1-month mark approached since the leak. He spent long hours in his office, door closed, taking calls he did not discuss. She found him one evening staring at a photograph on his desk, one she had never seen before. A younger Julian, with his arm around a laughing woman. "Rachel, you still love her," Natalie said softly from the doorway. He looked up, no denial in his eyes. "Part of me always will. She was my first love, my first everything." The words should have hurt, but instead, Natalie felt only compassion. She crossed to him, taking his hand. "I would never ask you to forget her. She made you who you are. You are extraordinary, you know that." He pulled her into his lap, his arms circling her waist. "Rachel would have liked you. She always said I needed someone who would challenge me, keep me honest. Then I am honoring her memory by driving you crazy." He laughed, the sound rich and warm. "You absolutely are." The past returns 2 days later. Everything changed. Natalie was reviewing design proposals in her workspace when Julian's assistant appeared, her face pale. "Mrs. Ashford, there is someone here to see your husband. She says it is urgent." In Julian's office, a woman stood by the window. She was thin, her clothes expensive but hanging loose on her frame. When she turned, Natalie gasped. The resemblance to the photograph was unmistakable. "Hello, Julian," the woman said, her voice shaky. "I know this is impossible, but it is me. It is Rachel." Julian stood frozen behind his desk, all color draining from his face. "No, you died. I was at your funeral. You were at a funeral for someone they thought was me." Rachel moved closer, tears streaming down her cheeks. "There was a mistake with the identification. I was in a coma for 3 months. When I woke up, I had severe amnesia. It took me 5 years to piece together who I was, to find my way back." The room spun. Natalie gripped the back of a chair, her mind struggling to process the impossibility unfolding before her. Julian looked like he might collapse, his hands braced on his desk. "This is not real," he whispered. "You cannot be here." Rachel pulled out a folder, her hands trembling. "Medical records. DNA tests. I know it sounds insane. I know I have no right to walk back into your life after all this time, but I had to see you. I had to know if you—" Her eyes fell on Natalie's wedding ring. "Oh, you are married, Rachel." Julian's voice cracked on her name, 5 years of grief and guilt crashing over him. "I thought I killed you. I have lived with that every single day. You did not kill me. The drunk driver did." She wiped her eyes. "Julian, I did not come here to disrupt your life. I came to tell you the truth. To set you free from the guilt I know you have been carrying. It's the impossible choice after Rachel left." Promising to stay at a hotel and give them space to process, Julian and Natalie sat in stunned silence. The city hummed beyond the windows, indifferent to the earthquake that had just shattered their world. "This cannot be happening," Natalie finally said, her voice hollow. "People do not come back from the dead." "Apparently they do." Julian's laugh was broken, edged with hysteria. 5 years. 5 years I mourned her. Built my entire life around the fact that she was gone. Natalie's heart cracked, but she kept her voice steady. "You still love her?" "I do not know what I feel." He stood, pacing like a caged animal. "She was my past. My entire past. But you—" He stopped in front of Natalie, his eyes desperate. "You are my present. My future. I love you. That has not changed. But she is alive, Julian." Natalie stood, taking his hands even though it hurt to touch him. "She came back for you. You cannot ignore that. Are you telling me to leave you?" "I am telling you to figure out what you really want." Tears burned her throat, but she forced them back. "You deserve to have closure with Rachel, to understand what happened, and she deserves more than you staying with me out of obligation." "It is not obligation." His grip tightened on her hands. "I chose you, Natalie. Every day I choose you. Then prove it." She pulled away, wrapping her arms around herself. "Talk to her. Really talk. And when you know for certain, when there is no doubt left in your heart, come back to me." The separation. Julian moved to a hotel that night. The penthouse felt cavernous without him, every room echoing with memories. Natalie threw herself into work, completing designs through tears. Meeting clients with a smile plastered on her face while her heart shattered. The media had a field day. "Back from the dead, tech mogul's first love returns," screamed the headlines. Photographs of Julian and Rachel having coffee appeared online, the two of them looking serious and drawn. Speculation ran rampant about whether he would leave his new wife for his supposedly dead fiancée. Natalie's phone rang constantly. Friends, colleagues, even her father called to check on her. She told everyone the same thing. Julian needed time, and she was giving it to him. What she did not say was that every night she cried herself to sleep, clutching the pillow that still smelled like him. On the 5th day, Julian's assistant delivered a package to the penthouse. Inside was a letter and a key. "Natalie, I need you to know that I have been meeting with Rachel every day. We have talked about the accident, her recovery, the lost years. It has been painful and necessary and healing in ways I never expected. She gave me something I did not know I needed, forgiveness. She told me the crash was not my fault, that she never blamed me, and I should stop blaming myself. But through every conversation, every difficult moment, I thought of you. I thought of your smile, your strength, the way you challenged me to be better. The key in this box is to the rooftop garden. Meet me there tonight at 8 if you are willing to hear what I have decided. If you do not come, I will understand. But please come. Please give me the chance to choose you properly this time. Julian." The rooftop. Natalie stood in the elevator, the key clutched in her hand, her heart hammering. She wore a simple sundress, her hair loose, no makeup to hide the evidence of her tears. The elevator opened directly onto the rooftop garden. Her breath caught. Thousands of tiny lights had been strung through the plants, creating a canopy of stars. Flowers bloomed everywhere, filling the air with perfume. And in the center of it all stood Julian, wearing jeans and a white shirt, looking more vulnerable than she had ever seen him. "You came," he said, relief flooding his face. "I came." She stepped forward slowly, afraid that if she moved too fast, this moment would shatter. "You wanted to talk? I wanted to tell you what I realized." He closed the distance between them, but did not touch her, giving her space. "Rachel and I talked about everything. The life we had planned, the future we lost. And you know what I discovered? That future died 5 years ago. Not because of the accident, but because people change. She changed during her recovery. I changed building my life without her. We are not the same people who fell in love in college." Natalie's eyes filled with tears. "Julian, let me finish." His voice was urgent, desperate. "I will always care about Rachel. I will always be grateful that she survived, that she found her way back to herself. But I am not in love with her anymore. I am in love with you. With the woman who defended me at that gala, who saw past my walls, who gave me space to heal even when it broke your heart. The question came out broken. How do you know you are not just choosing the easier option? Because being with you has never been easy. He finally reached for her, his hands gentle on her shoulders. You push me, challenge me, make me want to be better every single day. Rachel was my past, and I needed to say goodbye to truly move forward. But you, Natalie Brooks Ashford, you are my future. If you will still have me. She looked up at him, at the love shining in his eyes, the certainty in his voice. What about our contract? Our 6 months? Forget the contract. He pulled a familiar folder from his pocket, and to her shock, ripped it in half. The pieces fluttered to the ground like confetti. I do not want 6 months. I want forever. I want real vows, real promises. I want to wake up next to you for the rest of my life and know that you are there because you choose to be, not because of some agreement.